Good afternoon, everyone. We're just opening the doors and letting everyone into the room. We'll give it a few minutes before we get started for people to get their audio and video connected, and then we'll officially kick things off. But while we wait and people are joining, let's get the chat moving. We'd love to know where you're joining us from today. And another thing, since we're talking about the future of safety, what is one manual safety task that you wish you could automate right now? So let us know in the chat box. I see we have someone from Georgia. That's great. Welcome. And from the UK. So it's morning over there for you. That's very interesting. Some people are in, their morning coffee. Some people are right before lunch. It's always exciting to see people joining from different places. We'll wait just 1 or 2 minutes more and then we'll get started. Oh, I see Christos from Greece, Thessaloniki, and I'm also based in Thessaloniki, so that's nice to hear. And another one as well. Let's get started slowly. So welcome officially to our technical briefing, Beyond the PDF, Transforming Risk Assessments into AI-Powered Safety Intelligence. It is truly a pleasure to have you all with us. My name is Maria, and I'll be moderating the session. So today we're here to address a reality most of us know all too well. Most risk assessments are written once, saved as a PDF, and then forgotten, at least until something goes wrong. As we move toward Industry 4.0, that gap between static paperwork and the daily reality of your operations, though, is becoming a major liability. Today, we're providing a blueprint for the next generation of HSC. We're moving beyond reactive compliance and showing you how to build a dynamic, AI-driven system of action. Before we dive in, I have a few quick notes just to help us run things more smoothly. This is a mics off session, but we do want it to be interactive. So please drop your questions into the chat box at any point during the presentations. If your question is for Elsa or Panos specifically, just let us know. We've saved about 15 minutes at the end to go through them. And don't worry about taking notes. We are recording the session and we'll be sending the replay link to your inbox by tomorrow. To start us off, we're looking at the shift from theory to action. We know that even the most sophisticated safety logic fails if it isn't accessible at the moment of work. So I'm delighted to introduce Elsa Georgiza. Elsa is a chemical engineer, PhD, and the process safety manager at ProACT Consultants. She specializes in bow tie analysis, safety management systems, and major accident consequence modeling, having worked with leading companies across a wide range of industrial sectors. With over a decade of experience in industrial risk management and consequence modeling, she's an expert at turning complex theory into manageable systems. Today, she's going to show us the before and after, moving from those frozen in time PDF documents to a live, digitized, and efficient BI dashboard. Elsa, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you for this great introduction. Hello, everyone. It's really nice to see you all here with us today in this webinar. So let me start by sharing my screen in order to be able to see my presentation. So, as Maria said, I am an industrial safety consultant at ProACT. ProACT is actually a group of engineers. We are a multidisciplinary team who travels around the world, mainly in Greece, Cyprus, Egypt, Turkey, Egypt, the Balkans, the UAE, and the UK, and we prepare studies for various fields of industry, such as cement, oil and gas, metallurgical, chemicals, food and beverage, pharmaceuticals, and of course, the energy sector. We have actually three departments at ProACT. We have the process safety department, where we prepare studies such as ATEX, HAZOPs, LOPAs, hazards, fire risk assessments, bow ties, consequence modeling using specialized software, and some other more dedicated studies such as ammonia safety, battery energy storage systems, hazard identification, as well as hydrogen safety plans. We also have the machinery safety department, where our engineers prepare machinery risk assessments, safety upgrades, automation safety, and of course, LOTOs, LOTO tows, and technical folders. And we have also the industrial support department that deals with specifications for new facilities, equipment siting, integrated safety management systems, internal standards for multinational companies, and of course, digitized solutions like the one I'm going to show you today. So I will leave my PowerPoint for now, and I will continue with today's work case. This is what we call in ProACT a hazard sheet. It is a traditional hazard identification method, a risk assessment method that I would like to show you how it could be transformed into a plug-and-play digital solution. So, the methodology that we follow is that we visit a site and we identify hazards, mainly regarding building structures, fire safety, explosion protection, occupational risks, as well as electrical hazards. We take a photograph of the finding and then we provide a short description. After that, we perform a short risk assessment in terms of frequency, likelihood, and severity in order to be able to prioritize, based on risk, the proposed actions that follow the finding. In this way, we prepare dozens of PDFs because, as you can understand, every industrial site has many hazards that we can identify. And we provide dozens of PDFs that we deliver to the company, to the client. All the information is there. And then what? So this brings me to my first question for today, our first poll question. And I would like to ask you, not this one. This one is for Panos. This one is for me. So, if you can see the poll, I would like to ask you, what is your biggest challenge in managing safety risks today? If you would like, please go ahead and vote in order to discuss the results after a minute or so. So what is the biggest difficulty? Is it the lack of visibility across sites? Do you have any difficulty prioritizing actions? Is it tracking the implementation progress? Is it turning data into actionable insight? Please go ahead and choose, if you like, what option suits you best, or maybe what option you think it's more applicable to you. I don't know, Maria, is the poll question live right now?
They can let us know in the chat box. I don't think it is, but I can relaunch it, so we are 100% sure. Okay. I believe
so here it is right now.
Okay, perfect.
I will leave you a minute or so in order to be able to answer. I see that already a lot of you are voting. And I can see that the last one, the option of turning data into actionable insights, is taking the lead. So this is what most of you have voted, that the biggest challenge is turning data into actionable insights. And then we have the problem, the challenge of tracking implementation progress, which is something that is anticipated when we have so many data in static PDFs or Words or Excels. And of course, there is the lack of visibility across sites, especially for companies who run multiple sites that are scattered across the world, and they try to implement the same safety standards for everyone. And last but not least, there is the difficulty in prioritizing actions due to the fact that sometimes we may even lack resources. We may not have enough personnel to read through all these pages and studies and be able to make action list, and most importantly, be able to follow it up. So I'm ending this poll right now, and I'm going to show you how we can transform the static PDF into a plug-and-play digital solution through the Tekmon platform. So what we have done is that we have taken all the information provided in the hazard sheet, and we have uploaded in specific forms that are customizable to each company's needs. So you can see in this form right here all the information that I showed you before in the PDF. And this actually makes our life a lot easier, because we are able to take a photograph right during our visit, to take the photograph on site and automatically upload it on the platform. We can also perform the risk assessment right on site, because it is now automated. And of course, we can add the proposed action description and some more information, such as what type is the proposed action. Is it an organizational recommendation? Is it technical? Does it regard training? And so on. We can assign this action to an owner. We can set the target completion date, and of course, we can characterize the action based on the status, meaning whether it is pending or whether it is closed. It is actually a very user-friendly platform, which makes our life a lot easier, because it is a no-code platform. And in this way, we can customize the forms according to the methodology each company uses for identifying risks. You can simply click and drop field here, and in this way make forms that correspond to your needs. So we have taken all this information, all these hazards that are identified, all these actions that have been proposed, and upload them, include them in a digital platform. And then there is the next question, the next poll question for today. I would like to ask you.
Elsa, would it be okay? Yeah, okay, it's launched now. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
How do you currently manage and track your risk assessments after they are completed? Do you remain with static documents like PDFs, like the one I showed you, or even Excels or Words, and this limits your follow-up? Do you manually track actions, for example, during meetings or through hundreds of emails? Maybe you do have a partially digital system. There are some tools in place that help you with the follow-up and with the action list, or maybe you are already implementing a fully digital and integrated risk management system. I'm glad to see that you are voting. And as expected, I might say, most of you use static documents, PDFs, Words, with all the information there, but you actually don't know, you have difficulties making it a useful tool. A lot of you, that is nice to see, like 33%, you have already a partially digital system. You have some tools as we are moving on to the new era of digitization that help you track down necessary actions, that help you implement a digital management system. Oh, great. So, static documents, partially digital system, very close, the percentage of these two. You manually track actions by emails or meetings or spreadsheets, and a small percent has already a fully digital and integrated risk management system. So I'm going to show you what you can do with all this information, how the Power BI can actually transform all this data into a very useful tool. The first thing that you can see is a Power BI report that emerges from all the data that I have shown you before for the work case that we are demonstrating today. The pie charts that you see on the map represent different sites of a company that has different sites scattered around Greece. Each site is demonstrated by a pie chart segmented by the risk level of the respective findings. And the bigger the circle, the more the findings that have been identified. In this way, you can have a quick preview of how hazardous a site is and where we should put our attention first. On the right-hand side, you can also see here a pie chart where that represents how many hazard sheets have been created and have pending actions, how many hazard sheets here in the light blue area have been completed but not yet approved, and with dark blue color, you can see the hazard sheets that have been approved by the upper management. It's actually a quick way to show the upper management workload, how many actions are pending for approval. And of course, as you may already know from similar Power BI reports, all BI reports are highly dynamic. So if I click on this segment right here, you can see all the other visuals and the map change to whatever filter I have chosen. For example, here you can see only the risk level of the created hazard sheets, of the open hazard sheets, of the open actions. Here as well. And of course, I can apply a lot of slicers, a lot of filters to be able to see all the necessary information based on site, based on the risk category. For example, if I go here and press the medium risk, I can see all the pending actions per site that are of a medium risk level. And something that I think highly important, you can also filter the findings by the risk identification category. See, for example, what sites have the most risk regarding fire protection. This is very useful in case you want to assign the proposed actions, the mitigating actions, to an external contractor. And in this way, you can show them from which side they should start depending on risk. Now we can drill down to the actions level. We can see the pending actions now, the gauges on the upper part, depending on their risk. And of course, if we choose the filters here, we can see the pending actions per site and understand the contribution of each site to the overall risk level. If I choose the pending filter here, I can go down to the decomposition tree and see, let's remove this one, and see all the pending actions, but this time I can see how they are decomposed to different types. I can see how many of them are organizational, technical, or training, in order to have an indication of where to allocate sources in organizational measures such as procedures, in training, or in technical interventions. I can also continue the decomposition and see the risk category of this action, where they have been identified, in which position or line, or in which area, and of course, the category that they correspond to. Now, whichever path I choose, for example, here, I can see this table here of finding and action change in order to show the corresponding finding and action to the path that I have chosen. And of course, I can also see the pending actions per owner, per responsible personnel, and know right away their contribution to the overall risk and their workload in terms of safety. I can also see where I have made the most interventions. If I remove the filter, I can see how many actions I have closed depending on their risk level, and to which part of the sites I have made the most technical interventions in order to make educated, let's say, decisions in new projects, or maybe even in technical due diligence. Moving on from the visuals, you can see the hazard identification table, where there is actually all the information that you have seen in the PDFs, but this time is in a form of a table in order to facilitate action tracking. You can filter all this information, again, depending on site, on the risk category. For example, you can see first all the unaccepted risk level pending actions, and so on. And if you click the link here, it goes to the relevant form, where you can see more information, like who has identified this hazard, this finding. You can see the respective photograph in order to quickly know which equipment are we talking about, to see the risk assessment in more detail, and of course, you can easily close any pending actions if you wish to do so. We have also added an aging analysis in order to be able to know which actions are very much past their target completion date, and in this way know how maybe off schedule your health and safety implementation plan is and where risk may accumulate by using color coding. And knowing how important an action list is to every company and how much of a challenge is to keep track, we also have tables where you can identify the actions that are pending for this month and also the actions that are pending for the next month in order to be able to implement a proactive follow-up. That means follow up on actions before they're actually past their completion date. And the most important thing for me is the KPIs, the KPIs report. We have two groups of KPIs. The one that shows the off-schedule actions, the higher risk actions, we want the gauges, the respective gauges, be at 0 point, whereas for the lower risk actions, we want the gauges to be at the green area because we have attributed a safety margin. The most important group of KPIs is these leading indicators over here that actually show the maturity of the safety management system. The first one on the left-hand side is an indicator of how many near misses have been identified by the site itself, because a site that has a lot of near misses identified doesn't mean that it is a more hazardous site. It means that it has an enhanced safety culture. In this way, we set the goal each year to have more and more near misses identified by the personnel, by the site personnel. Of course, depending on how mature our safety culture is, we can set different targets. For example, we want 1% higher or maybe even 20% higher. The KPI, the indicator on the right-hand side has to do with management commitment. We set the goal that each year more and more findings are identified by corporate audits. This shows the management commitment to safety. And of course, in order to have a comprehensive safety management system, we want an additional risk lens, a third eye on safety, and that's why we want each year an annual audit to be performed by a contractor. So that's it for the BI reports. Let me get back to my PowerPoint and tell you about key takeaways of today's work case. Static risk assessments are only the starting point. There is no point of having a great study with all the information in your drawer and forgotten. You can benefit from all the information that there is in a study only if it's part of a living management system. And this is what the Tekmon platform as a digitized solution can offer. It can structure all the data in order to gain visibility, especially if we are talking about multiple sites of a company. You can gain accountability. There is faster and proactive follow-up. And the most important, there is real-time risk tracking. No matter how much information you have, no matter how big your data is, Power BI can transform them into clear priorities, measurable smart KPIs, and targeted intervention, because the goal is not to just sit and wait for something bad to happen, but shift the safety management from reactive to predictive. That is, You can anticipate risk, you can track implementation, you can measure performance in order to continuously improve your safety culture. So that's it for me today. Thank you for listening. I will be glad to answer any questions at the end of the webinar. And until then, back to you, Maria.
Thank you, Elsa, very much. Thank you for this insightful and very interesting presentation. We are seeing that live dashboard compared to the old static reports really makes the case for why we need to move towards Safety 4.0. But a key question for many of us, perhaps, is once we have the data, how do we make it work for us, for our organization? As you've also showed through the BI dashboard, of course. To show us the digital architecture that actually embeds that expert logic into the front line, I'd like to introduce Panos Mitsios. Panos is the Chief Operations Officer and co-founder of Tekmon. He holds a master's degree in civil engineering, a master's in environmental protection and sustainable development, as well as an MBA. And he's going to show us how these digital workflows function in the field. And he'll be giving us a first look at the all-new Tekmon user interface. Panos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria, for the introduction. Thank you, Elsa, a lot for the presentation. I would like to start presenting with two questions, two very brief questions, just to understand the audience better. Let me launch the first one. It's about new hazard risk assessment. Let's assume that you have a new hazard emerges. How quickly can your organization update and communicate risk assessments? So far, how fast we are. Great. 10 more seconds. Okay. As you can see in the results, you can do that within a few days or within weeks. And some also immediately in real-time updates. Very good. Let me go to the second question. No, I think it's the risk assessment data, correct? Yeah. Yeah, here it is. So this is about risk assessment data. What happens to the data inside your completed risk assessment? So are they actively analyzed to improve safety outcomes? Is it occasionally reviewed when needed? Is it just stored mainly for compliance purposes, or it's rarely or never used again? Okay, so I can see that the most common answer is occasionally reviewed when needed, or it's stored mainly for compliance purposes. Let me share the results for you as well. So as you can see here, it's occasionally reviewed when needed, or it's stored mainly for compliance purposes. And a few answers again that are actively analyzed to prove safety outcomes. Very good. So thank you. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Over the next few minutes, I will walk you through specific challenges that almost every organization struggles with when it comes to risk assessments. I will not present the concept. I think Elsa did a very well job indeed. What I'm gonna analyze and what fortunately will be able to do today is to, at the end of this session, you will see exactly how artificial intelligence changes each of risk assessments in each of three key moments. First of all, a small introduction. We are Tekmon. Let me share my screen. I think you can see my screen, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So we are Tekmon. We are a Tekmon. We are a software company. What we are building is a software platform that can be used across different departments. So our platform is utilized not only by safety departments, but also for quality and environmental departments. Actually, risk assessment are not only about safety, as we'll understand. Quality and environment are also important and need to do risk assessment as well. But the platform is, as I mentioned, for any kind of processes under the health and safety department. The platform can be used for safety inspections, managing corrective action, managing certificates, risk assessment, of course, that we're going to talk today, site access, permit to works, training and PPE management, etc. So it has the full capabilities to be utilized in most or every aspect of a safety profession. Now, let me explain, let me ask you something. And I guess, when was the last time someone on your team wrote a risk assessment completely from scratch? I think it's not risk assessment usually are copied from previous jobs where you usually maybe change the name, the date changed, the situation that changed, and you submit it to your system. And also the problem with risk assessment is that the quality mostly depends entirely on who happens to be writing the risk assessment at that day. They are completed for compliance in most reasons, and then in many cases they're filed away. And this is, as you understand, a time-consuming process in every step. So Tekmon addresses this across three layers. And if you will recognize, this is, if you have seen our broader AI capabilities. Now, first, how you create risk assessments in the first place, how you create a workflow template. Second layer is how AI supports the team while they're actually doing assessments on the site, on the field. And third is how you turn all your risk assessment data into intelligence that drives better decisions. So let us go through each one of these stages and layers. So the first layer is building risk assessment workflow templates. Today, building a new risk assessment process template is a manual job. Someone sits down, usually in a Word or an Excel file, and constructs a new form, a new process that our risk management team is going to follow. Or more likely, it copies an old risk assessment process and builds a new one based on the old one. With Tekmon and artificial intelligence, you can actually in the system describe what your risk assessment process should look like in a plain language, or you can also upload an existing form and an existing PDF, an existing process, and AI actually reads it and converts it into a structured digital workflow. It's not a response. I will demonstrate right now. So let's say, for example, you need to create a risk assessment that combines a permit to work and risk assessment at the same time. And you also need in this process, we need to include, of course, the job details, hazard identification, etc., PPE, requirements, residual risk pre-work checklist, and sign off by permit issuer and site supervisor. What you can actually do in the platform is this. Let me go to the platform. this is the platform. Actually, this is the new platform that is gonna be live next month. If some of you today are actually already using Tekmon, you will be migrated to this platform in the forthcoming months, and you will have access to those capabilities that I'm demonstrating today for first time. So let's say that you need to create a process. This is the old way that you would do that. You would, with drag and drop tools, you would create, as Elsa explained, you can demonstrate and you can create a new process. In the new way with AI, you can just click here, describe what you want. This is copy-pasted the text that was previously. Create a form template that works, a form template for works at height that combines a permit to work and risk assessment. You can even attach, for example, you can see here, you need to reference to working at height regulations. If you have these regulations that you want in place, you can also attach them here, and you can generate the form. This will take a few minutes, so maybe I can demonstrate what actually now the system is doing is analyzing the prompt that we provided, and it's building software. It's not providing only an answer. It is actually now writing code and is building a software application within Tekmon platform with what you requested. Of course, the end result is also editable. Let me go back and just demonstrate like one that I created just before the meeting to save some time. So this is the permit to work and risk assessment work at height that the system created. This was with a simpler prompt in this case, where you can have what you can see, and all this form, digital form that is actually you can distribute to your personnel to their mobile apps is actually created automatically with all the questions, the sections that you requested, the PPE, etc., signature fields, photograph fields, etc. Of course, let me go back here. I'm still working. It takes around 4 or 5 minutes. Maybe we can go back later when it provides the answer. You can edit them and create the final cut of your process within minutes. Imagine to do that with an ERP vendor. The time it takes for you to provide the requirements and the ERP vendor or legacy system to provide with a digitized process could be like weeks in the best case scenario. Now with artificial intelligence, you can create processes, digitized processes, and actually digitize the way that you work in a few minutes. Now, coming back to the presentation. Now, these are some questions that I believe it makes sense for you in order to ask yourself, in order to understand if this is something that makes sense for you to use. So, how many different risk assessment templates exist across your team and sites? If you have many risk assessment, you need to create new risk assessment. Of course, a tool like that will be very helpful for you. Who builds and maintains risk assessment templates today? How long does it take? When regulations change, how quickly do you update the underlying process of collecting information? Are there risk assessment workflows that only exist on paper or in someone's head? So these are some questions, and depending on the answers, you will see if this is something that makes sense for you to use. Now, let's assume that you have created your processes using Tekmon. How AI can help you within Tekmon's platform to guide your teams through the risk assessments, performing risk assessments on site. First, what it can do, in this case, AI acts as a coworker. It does not take in charge, of course, cannot do risk assessment by themselves, but it proposes and does hazard identifications from photos, propose risk levels, controls can do controls from measures that against applicable regulations and standards. And as the platform itself, it can guide and execute everything on mobile. You can capture any evidence via photos, signatures, and you can escalate immediately to the appropriate teams. And everything are stored and auto-report in live dashboards, as Elsa just demonstrated. So let me go back to the platform. Now you can see here the AI has created the process. Of course, I can edit this process, I can add more fields, etc. It has different sections depending on what I have asked. You can see the likelihood, the severity. They have created the risk rating method. Of course, this is you are able to change that, edit that, and create the final process. Now, I'm going back to the execution phase. Let's assume that you have created a process in the system. Let me go here, where you need to do a simple risk assessment. This is a very simple scenario that I have created just for demonstrating reasons. Maybe the actual process is a bit longer, but this is, I think, a great example to understand how the system works and how AI can help. Let's say that there is a safety observation today, and you walk on a site, and you notice that some people are working like this. Let me find the photo, sorry. You can add those photos, of course, via the mobile application as well. And you need to respond to some questions. Are there any hazards in the photos? What are the risks? What is the likelihood of an accident? What is the severity? What is the risk rating? What control measures should I take? What is the residual risk, etc. Of course, you can go here and respond to those questions one by one. But what we have created in the new version of the platform is an AI assistant, which actually suggests response based on the provided information. In this case, the provided information was photographs, could be text, could be something different, could be a long text or drop-down menu. So you could have, you do the initial, you provide the AI assistant with the initial information, and the assistant provides recommended responses directly. Let's wait for a few seconds more. Here it is. So it has 7 suggestions. In the first, are there any hazards? The system says that both images show workers performing tasks at height on step ladders with apparent unsafe ladder use and nearby trip electrical hazards. Do you accept this? Okay, let's say that we accept this. We click this, and the assistant places the response into the digital form. It's not like a response in a ChatGPT. It's a response that we can report later on in a dashboard or in a compliant PDF report export. Description of risks. It explains, as you can see here, there is also a confidence level. If the information that we provide the system are not enough to respond to what we are asking the system will respond with a lower confidence rate. If we don't like the response, we can refine the answer. How should I refine? And you can actually do like a chat in each one of the questions. It proposes a likelihood for workers actively on others reaching, so there is a higher likelihood and almost high severity. Then the control measures, what we need as a control measure, so the system also responds in the control measures section as well. as I mentioned, I can chat with the agent, or I can bring the answer and I can add manually my responses. And then I respond. You can see that it brought the residual likelihood to 2 after the control measures, but it left the residual severity the same, 4, but it has a low confidence. This is why it's marked with yellow in this case. So in this way, of course, you can change everything. The way that you can perform investigation, accidents, writing essays, etc., it's very, very much faster. And you have an embedded AI assistant, which is also secure. You don't copy-paste information to ChatGPT. And the way that we actually can do that, and what is also important in this case is all this, the way that the AI assistant will respond to these questions. For example, for the control measures, I explain to the system how they should how it should respond. So based on the hazard identification, I want to propose the appropriate control measures following a hierarchy of controls, eliminations. So I can actually train my system, giving very specific instructions to my system how to respond. And the final, I'm moving again back to the presentation. Let me go here. The last one is about AI at the reporting layer. What actually this layer is about is that when every risk assessment is digital and structured, AI can analyze them as a data set. It can identify which hazard types appear most frequently, which sites or teams have weaker control measure, which tasks consistently carry high residual risks. And instead of waiting for someone to build a report, anyone can just ask the system which task categories have the highest average risk score, which sites have the most, for example, recurring hazards type. You see some of those exam questions on the right. And this is actually, I cannot demonstrate this live at the moment because this is under development. The first 2 layers are already developed and deployed in the current solution, but this is how it's going to look like. Let's assume that you have created the BI dashboards that Elsa very well demonstrated previously. What you will have access is you will have access to here a chat agent where you can ask these questions and the system will respond according to your data, not the data that someone has submitted or to the internet. It actually runs through your data and gives these responses. So I think my time is over. We can share this, have some questions to explore. These are some questions that you can ask internally to see if these AI layers can help you and in what way. So thank you a lot. Maria.
Thank you, Panos, very much for the
move to the
presentation.
Q&A. Thank you.
It's great to take a peek into Tekmon's new intuitive interface. So before we dive into the questions from the audience, I do have a couple of my own for the both of you. And I'd like to start with a question for Elsa. Elsa, do you see this approach being applicable only to the hazard identification methodology that you presented? Or could it support other risk assessment methodologies as well?
Thank you, Maria. I think almost every type of safety study could benefit from digitization. For example, we have already applied this methodology to chemical risk assessments, where we identify all hazardous chemicals on site, and we document where these chemicals are being stored and how they are used, and we perform a risk assessment with suggestions and existing measures. But the great thing about this is that we can use a QR code that can be scanned on site and show to the operator where these chemicals are stored, in which cabinet, and how dangerous, how hazardous are these chemicals. Something that really benefits, in my opinion, the permit to work system. We can know by simple QR codes, how hazardous an area is in regards to chemicals, and take additional measures if necessary. We also have digitized ATEX electrical equipment inspections, and in this way we can also have an asset list of electrical equipment or very specific action lists that have to do with ATEX equipment that in hazardous facilities can be hundreds and thousands of items. So to sum up, I think almost every kind of risk assessment can benefit from digitization.
Okay, thank you, Elsa. Great. So let's alternate. I'll go now to one question from the audience and then another one of my own. Someone asked, what are unacceptable actions? Actions intended to minimize unacceptable or intolerable risks. Would you maybe address that? Thank you.
Exactly. These are actions that are connected to findings that are identified, that their risk is identified as unacceptable. We usually have 4 levels of risk: unacceptable, high, medium, and low. Of course, depending on each facility's methodology, we can change them, but unacceptable actions are these actions that are connected to unacceptable level of risk.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And then a last one for now, and then I'll move on to Panos. Based on your experience, Elsa, what are the most significant practical benefits companies gain? I think you did mention one benefit before, but let's dive into it. When they digitize their risk assessment and safety management processes.
Oh, it's hard to pick only one, but it depends on what is your role in an organization. The upper management usually find very useful the KPIs, because it is true that you can manage what you can measure. So the KPIs are very important. Is a very important tool for the upper management, whereas the operations or the operators find it very useful to have a very specific action list in order to know what their tasks are and be able to proactively follow up.
I was muted, sorry. Thank you. There are benefits for everyone, I think. It's best to say, yeah. Let's move on to Panos now. I have sort of a, let's say, scenario question. If someone came to you and said that, we have over a decade of historical risk assessments saved in Excel files. If we do switch to Tekmon, is there a built-in import tool to upload these bulk files directly into the new platform?
Yes, definitely. We have a few cases, of course. The way that we migrate information, we can migrate past data of companies to the platform automatically. You don't have to submit them manually in the system. And if this information is available in a database, any kind of database, an Excel file, CSV file, that would help a lot to automate that process. Another way that we can upload information and demonstrate this with AI, if, for example, you have some AI, let's say that assume that you have a written PDF report of risk assessment, you can upload that, the PDF or any kind of document, and we can extract information from those documents, and you can upload, for example, 10 dozens of those documents to the system, and the system will digitize them and extract the information from the PDF files automatically and place it in the system. So migrating past data is totally feasible.
That's great. And now another scenario that might be of interest. An organization's remote industrial sites may have zero internet connectivity. Is that an issue? Does the Tekmon mobile app work offline as well?
Correct. This was a hardware requirement from the beginning of our product development. Users can use the platform even without internet connection wherever they are. Once the device is connected to the internet again, we'll sync with the main database.
That is.
I can see another question as well, because I'm also, if it's okay, I think one of the panelists is, or one of the audience members is asking, one of the biggest challenges is my client, if my client company is generating a risk assessment based on actual conditions, site, actual process, electrical diagrams, for example, with the requirements of the task. What they're asking and what the system can do, I just explain how you can generate a risk assessment based on prompting. What the system can also do is that you can upload, for example, a manual of a machine. Read the machine of the manual, see the recommendations of the manufacturing, and can build, for example, not a risk assessment per se, but could be, for example, instructions of how to handle this machine when you need to start it or to shut it off. So yes, we can read documents, we can refer, and we can refer to existing diagrams, could be diagrams or images. And from those images or the diagrams, we can either create a process or we can respond, take a photo of that and respond based on actual data and live data if something is according to the diagram.
Very useful.
Mm-hmm.
I also see a question from Antigone. If you operate multiple facilities, how can you ensure that an issue identified at one site has not already been addressed at another site in order to avoid duplicate actions? And how are findings and corrective actions communicated across facilities?
I guess this is about Tekmon's platform.
I think so.
What we have, we didn't explain at all, is that in the Tekmon platform, before setting up processes, you can create the working environment. What is the working environment? You can build, you can create digital libraries with your sites, your assets. When you do a risk assessment, you connect the risk assessment, for example, with a specific asset or with a specific site. In this way, there is a full history and visibility on what was the previous risk assessment that took place in this site or asset or company, whatever is the case for its company. And in the reporting layer, we can also build some verification mechanism to be able to find that easier. Also, what we're working now at the moment with AI in the reporting layer, one of the things that we're doing is the quality assurance and quality data assurance agent. What it actually does, it runs through your recordings in the system and points out potential mistakes or duplicates. So there are several ways that we can ensure this quality of data.
Okay, great. I see one more that I think is also for Tekmon and Panos. Can the system generate the RA workflow and the RA based on P and IDs, one-line diagrams, for example, inside an MCC, exploded diagram of a mechanical equipment?
I think this was the previous that I responded. I just wanted to add on this now that you actually read it, is that the process in the system can be a multiple step process as well. It's not only one step process. Could be, for example, if somebody just records what are in place and another person needs to do the risk assessment, and another person, for example, advise on the mitigation measures, we can build a multiple step workflow as well, as I mentioned previously, based on diagrams, based on photos, based on what information we have.
Okay, and there is one more from what I can see. We are a bit over time for anyone that wants to stay a bit longer, so we can address maybe these last one or two questions. You're more than welcome, of course, to stay. Is there a limit in the number of arrays that the system can manage simultaneously? In some of my client companies, the number of arrays that a company permits to work for jobs are in the order of thousands per day. So
no, there's no limitation on that. We have tested the system in different environments. We have clients that are using the systems with 4,000 or 5,000 employees. And there's no, and we have, for that reason, of course, we have made optimizations in the way that we handle this information. For example, when you take a photo, the same way when you send a photo via WhatsApp or Viber and the photo from 6 megabytes from your mobile device converts to a few kilobytes, we have implemented similar optimization technology methods in order to avoid those problems.
Okay, and one more has just come in again a bit for the platform and the system. Does the system allow to take a photo of the PNID and generate an isolation plan in compliance with the company standards, LOTOTO?
Yes, in principle it does with AI. As I mentioned, this is going to be the first version of AI is going to be available. It's already available, but it's going to roll out officially the next month. We would be very glad to understand what are the specific requirements and test the system. I believe that the system can do that, but we have to go in a deeper discussion about the process.
Perfect. I think we can slowly wrap today's session. Thank you, Elsa and Panos, both for your very, very interesting presentations. And thank you to the audience for your time and engagement. Just a couple of quick reminders as you leave. We will be sending a 30-second feedback survey shortly, and we'd appreciate it if you could take some time to fill it out, as your input is what actually helps us make these sessions as valuable as possible. And also, look out for the recording that we will send to your inbox tomorrow. Thank you all, and see you at the next one.
Thank you.
All. Thank you all.